Ayubowan, good afternoon. Welcome to another session of live interviews in line with the International Education Summit for Quality Education. So first of all, let me just brief on this summit. It's the International Education Summit for Quality Education, which will be held from 28th to 30th, 2022 in Lucknow, India. So I take this an opportunity to invite other countries in the region as well as other countries to join in hand with us on this summit. I'm sure it's going to be a great experience for all the educators. We already educators from all the countries in the region have confirmed us. So we are eagerly awaiting to meet you all in this summit from 28th to 30th October in Lucknow, India. So moving back to today's interview. For today's interview, we have Mr.Jamtsho, the founder of Gelephu Childcare Center, Bhutan. He is also the chairperson of Dzongkhag Business Development Committee, Bhutan. On behalf of the Sahi Association, I would like to warmly welcome you, sir, for this interview. And today's theme is about role models, a very interesting topic for children. So we are going to discuss about a positive adult role model for children. So first of all, I would like to hear from Mr. Jamtsho about on a brief self-introduction of yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Greetings from Bhutan. Thank you, madam, for your brief introduction. Well, as you have mentioned, my good name is Jamtsho. I'm from Bhutan. Will be participating in the summit. Very excited to attend the summit and looking forward for the very interesting and very interactive. Thank you, madam. You have already introduced me, so it will not take long time.
Thank you, sir. So, well, who is your role model is a very common question that we raise to adults, teenagers. So what about young children? Do you think that young children also have their own role models?
Very interesting question, madam. Of course, everyone has a role model. In my case, first, just to say about myself, I do have a role model, and I have a son who is looking up to me as a role model as of now. And my parents is a role model. My parents is in 80s now. I'm the youngest son in a family. And I look up to my parents. I'm all in this position because of my parents. And right now in this position, when I look up to my parents, I always feel proud. So my parents is the first role model for me. And of course, my king, my country king, His Majesty the King, I look up to him as my role model. If you can see at the back of me, you can see the portrait of His Majesty the King there. So I always worship him. I look up to him, how he, take care of the people around us. So second, my role model is my parents and my king. And as you asked me, yes, for children, also there is a role model. My son he's 11 today. By the way, he's my son's birthday today. So my son turned 11 today, and my son always look up to me whenever I do something. Daddy, is this, should I do the same? This is what the children look up to us. So I think for children also there is a role model. And if I just say many children are looking up to parents, number one. Second could be the teachers during the school time. And I think these days the many children are looking up to, the TV stars, movie stars. So I think as a parent, as a teacher, as an adult, we should be responsible they're looking up to. If the movie star, let's say one of the movie star is doing very good in the movies, then they will see. If that movie star does something wrong, they might do the same thing. So as a parent, we should be very careful where our children, look up to. And we have to always remind them, your role model should be parents, role model should be teachers, your model should be king, the leaders who lead us in our country is our king, one of the best parent, what our majesty. I think if you search on the web, you'll always find our majesty holding Her Majesty Queen's hand and taking care of the royal prince, So this is what the parents should do. And children also should have a role model, but they should choose wisely who their role model is. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir. And well wishes to your son on his birthday from Sri Lanka. We wish him a very healthy, wealthy, happy birthday. And so you already answered my second question. So it was about who are the common role models of children. So as you mentioned, basically it's parents. For most of the children, it's parents. For myself, it was my parent. Obviously for my children and for your children, it's their parents, us. So, and it could be, as you mentioned, Your Majesty, the king as well. So depending on like the personality of the ruler in that particular country. So it depends. It could be parents, teachers, the rulers of the country, even could be siblings sometimes, and even a superhero from a movie or a series. So how can the parents, teachers, or general, the adults, us, can be positive role models for children? How can we influence them in a positive way as role models?
I think as a parent, the first thing is, setting a good example. Example is one of the main way to teach them manners, respect in the simplest way. Having said that, it does not have to be done in a complicated way. A little gesture by the parents have a great impact and it goes a long way. Hence experts have proven that children always watch every move of parents. So I think we as adults should set a good example. Now at home, like some parents might, do the violence, like fighting in front of children, arguing, setting bad examples. Later, the children might pick the same thing. So I think as an adult, the very important is like we have to set a very good example. So the if you show a good example, children will not listen to our advice. If you say please don't do this, if you do yourself, I think that's not a good example. Now, for instance, if you are drinking a lot, if you are alcoholic, if you drink in front of your child in every day, every night, and that violence, if you start at home, I think the children, when they grow up, the child will say, my parents used to do that. My father was doing, my father is alcoholic. So that's why I picked it up from. So there is chances that the, children, they just copy what we do actually. So that's why I say, even the experts says actually, children are always watching every move of the parents. So we as a parent, as an adult, we have to set a very good example.
Yeah, thank you, sir. In Sinhalese, also in Sri Lanka, we have an old saying setting examples is better than advice. So your main point was also that we have to set an example. Otherwise, no point in like telling children, being a bad example, being a bad influencer. If you keep on like just telling them as a robot, that's not going to work. So thank you very much for touching on that. So how can we influence the child in developing them mentally as well as physically, being a role model? Because now when it comes to ECCD centers, also our main goal is developing a child completely, achieving their complete development. And this include both physical development as well as mental development. So as role models, how can we touch these parts? How can we contribute to their physical development and mental development?
I think the question is almost what you have asked. There is an answer actually. So as a, parents, we can do a lot of physically, mentally. As a parent, we can really do something. In a Buddhist context, we say the behavior of the child will never go beyond parents. If the child shows something bad habit in the school or in the GCCD or in college, it means something is wrong at home. Parents are doing something wrong. So parents always copy children always copy parents. So that's why if you do something bad at home, the children will physically or mentally they'll be tortured, and they might take that as a takeaway. Then that problem starts when they go out from home. So I think as a parent, very important, as I mentioned earlier, we should always set a good example, because parents are the most influential persons for children. So we have to show a very good example in of our children. uh, More than advice, your action is important, because children are not going to be throughout their life. They're not going to be with us when they're young. When they're children, they stay. When they grow up, when they're adult, they move out. So when they move out, they carry our good examples. So how do we do parenting education is very important at home. Values is very important. Most important thing is the value at home, whether it's in at home or at whatever it is. Value starts from home. Of course, educations we get to learn from outside around, but most important thing is the value, discipline that parents should show, and that's how the children learn. And then when they grow up, so they copy us and they follow the good path.
Thank you very much, sir. So, a role model can contribute to child's social and emotional development to a greater extent. For an example, if the mother is the role model of a particular child, so the way that the mother is controlling her anger management, her socializing techniques, her self-controlling techniques can be automatically adopted by the child. So with your experience, with your personal experience, with your early childhood center experience, how can you elaborate this?
Yes, madam. The family becomes the most important influence for the child, as you mentioned, because overall the child development completely depends on the parents. Taking proper roles and responsibility for your child development will contribute the positive growth of a child. You know, which will ultimately help a child to become a good human in the later stage of life. And and of course, the environment is a crucial element for child's development. So, as a mother or as a father, what is so important is like they have to set a very good example. The coming back is the role model only. So, in your question, I think the role model is very important. So, likewise, the parents, both parents, if the child has just one parent, also that parent should take responsibility to child develop physically, mentally, show good examples. I think I stress more on the role model part as a parent and as a mother.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So at present, knowing or unknowing, most of the adults have become negative role models to children. So what are the consequences of this influence on the child as well as on the society? I mean, through news, through web portals, we every day we come across situations where children have been influenced by the negative behavior of children of the adults. So, what are the consequences of this, and how can you give us some examples from your context as well?
This time, I think this generation is a digital age. As you have mentioned, the problem everywhere is a cell phone, the gadgets the children is having in their hand, and the news that they watch, the information they get through the social networks. I think that is really a worry for us. And as a parent or as a teacher, our job is to advise our children, that which news to watch, what are they are supposed to do. This is very important. Otherwise, the children will just browse and do whatnot things. So this will automatically affect the child's psychology in the developing stage. So if in our context also, what we usually do is children at the age of 0 till 8 years, we should not give a cell phone. You know, after 8 years, they have to browse, they have to do a lot of activities in the school, they have to search, they have to do the project works and a lot of things. So that time they will obviously use the digital gadgets and all that. So that time, as a parent, as a teacher, as an adult, as a leader, whoever it is, I think our job and responsibility is to take care of our children, and you have to always advise them. And at the same time, advising is not enough. You have to check on them. You have to tell this is wrong, this is right. If you if because children's, they don't differentiate right now, they get influenced. But as an adult, what is our job? Is to guide, is to show the right path. For instance, if you're saying this is wrong, then you have to say this is wrong, then what is right? You have to guide them. So if the children is going in a wrong way, you have to guide and bring them in the right way. So that's the only part. And the most important thing is, as an adult or as a teacher, as a leader, the children look up to us. We have to, we have to show a good example. That is the only right way to, bring our children in a positive way.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And when it comes to role model, we always come across with this generation gap issue, because we were raised in a different manner, in a different environment. So if we are becoming the role models for our children who are in a different generation, who are raised in a different environment, different world, so do you think that that affects the child? Because, for an example, now our parents, they were not in the mobile phone generation. They might not have even seen a mobile phone when they were very young. So they're raised in a very different way. And being them our role models, uh, it's different, because we were raised in a generation, even when we were teenagers, the mobile phones were introduced. So our environment was somewhat different to our role model's environment. So there's a gap. So how do you bridge this gap? What is the influence from this gap? Sometimes, now you were talking about the mobile phones. Considering the present context, we cannot fully avoid this technology, because our children, sorry, because our children, whether we like or not, they'll have to raise with this technology. Sometimes they'll have to refer it. So there's a gap that we have to bridge when it comes to role modeling. So how do you identify this? What is the influence of this? I guess, I mean, I'm not sure whether you understand my question or not. Did you get it? Is it clear to you what I'm highlighting?
Yes, madam. I think
Yeah.
you're basically talking about the generation gap that we have. And
Yes.
during our time in the 90s, not much of mobile phones,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah. Yeah.
but at present, this is a generation, gadgets, with their children are born with gadgets. So I think,
Yeah.
but we can definitely control. There is a time. What is so important is time. Now, for example, in the Early Childhood Care and Development Center in our ECCD, now if parents enroll their children in our ECCD, okay, now their children's will come to the center by 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. So they will be away from gadgets 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 9 hours in the center. So you're keeping children away from gadgets for 9 hours. So this is also one best part, because children's, if they are kept at home, they don't have much to do. So parents will be watching television, grandparents will be watching television, father or mother will be somewhere in office, and children's will be obviously with the mobile phone. So if at the young age, if children are with the mobile phone, they are trained that way. Use the mobile phone when you're young, when you're children. So that's how we are negative. That's a negative part. But if you are bringing in a positive way, Send the child to the early education at the age of 3 plus. Now you are sending your child to the center at the age of 3. So from there till they turn 5 or 6, they'll be in ECCD. After that, they'll go to formal school. Again, in the formal school, there is a schedule. So till they are in class 12, you know, till they are in class 12, they'll be always be away from the gadgets. That's how we control. And when the children comes back home, and it's parents' responsibilities. As a teacher, you have to tell children, when you go back home, you can use the mobile, deny that. Let the children, this is a generation tool. This generation tool is a mobile phones. It's a gadget. We have to let children use. But what is so important is how do you make the children use that in a positive way? So that's the only way. So when their children is young, send them to ECCD for a week. They will be in the center. 9 hours they will be in the center. They'll be away from gadgets, but they'll be learning a lot of things. And then in school, same. But when they reach back home, what is so important is, as a parent, as a teacher, you have to make sure. But you cannot stop the children from using gadgets because this is a first century tool. We have to get to know what is things going around. We have to use a gadget. Children should know how to use computers, mobile phone, gadgets. They should know. But what is so important is we as adults, we have to take right. We have to make them. We have to make the children use the mobile phone. Timing is important.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And finally, what are the strategies that can be practiced by adults to become responsible, positive influences, or we call them role models to children?
The responsible or the strategies that we can practice, is number one. What's so important? Again, I'll have to come back to the role model only because our topic, the question itself is that one. The strategy that we have to play or to be a good influence on our children is one. This generation, the children's, especially adults, when they turn teenage, right after crossing teenage, they get married actually, and they don't know what parenting is all about. So they end up in that situation where the problem comes. So what is so important is, as a parent, you have to advise your children when you're teenage, you should not get married. In the school, what I have seen, what I have observed in other countries, when the teachers are teaching or doing that role model, or we say role play. So that time you are teaching a child. Let's say you are a boyfriend, you're a wife, you're a husband. So if you start teaching that kind of thing in the school itself, the children will obviously take interest at the young age, and then teenage pregnancy and the problem will come. So what is so important is, as a parent, you have to show a very good example. You have to advise. That is number one. Number one is your how you behave in front of the parents. Sorry, children, and children will obviously copy that. Number one. Number two, you know, some parents they drink, some chew tobaccos, some smoke, but they do in front of the children. So that will again influence. That gives a negative. That's a negative part. So some parents they will ask their son or daughter to buy, please get me a drink. Go to the shop and buy a cigarette for me, tobacco, alcohol. So if you send your child to that shop and the child has that curiosity, okay, my dad, my mom, my parents are always drinking alcohol, let me try on the way. So if that continues, then the later stage, they will also pick up the same habit. So what is so important as a parent, our responsibility as a role model to our children, we should show a very good example. So that is the very important part. So if you show a very good example to your children, obviously they will copy, they will follow our step, and then we can produce a very good citizen.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. So with that, we've come to an end of today's interview. And personally, I'm very impressed to have this interview with you because I personally value a lot of policies practiced by Bhutan, because the policy on foreign affairs in Bhutan, your environmental policy, especially being the only one country, only one carbon negative country. I guess you're the only one carbon negative country. So you're doing the social responsibility part on behalf of all the other countries. And we really appreciate that. And your education is at a very higher level. Considering your local values, you're giving a lot of value to the local concepts, because I've studied a bit about Bhutan, because it's different compared to us, compared to the country I was born, and compared to the country I live currently, because currently I'm in Dubai. So these countries have different values, different systems. So your policies, your way of managing things are somewhat different to us. You're still on the track on the modern technology, but you're not highly influenced by them. You have given priority to your core values as a country. So, as you explained earlier, big round of applause goes to your rulers. And I would like to hear a bit from that part as well. In concluding, if you want to add anything in general, maybe in terms of your ECCD system, in terms of the uh, heart touching policies in your country, anything if you want to add before winding up this session, this is your opportunity, sir.
Okay. Thank you, madam, for giving me this opportunity. I hope I've answered all your questions. Uh, and then thank you so much for the opportunity. And just to wind up, I would like to thank the organizer. And as you have mentioned, in our country, Bhutan, it's we have a philosophy called GNH, gross national happiness. We are guided by that principle. You know, our as you have mentioned, in a GNH in the constituency, we have 60% coverage of forest, but now we have exceeded that. We have almost 70 plus. So, and then country's development is measured by the happiness of the people, not by the growth actually. So that is number one. And number two, education is His Majesty's first priority. Education, digitalization, this is our Majesty's first priority. Our Majesty is so much concerned about the education system, and then we're on the track. Now, recently, Our Majesty has started a Bhutan Baccalaureate project, which means children are no more learners actually. They can be a teachers also. Teachers are no more teachers. They have to be a learners, you know. So we have to create an environment in such a way that the children's take interest in learning. We cannot force the children to learn. Learning should not be pressure. It should be a fun. So whenever the children goes to the center, or whenever the children goes to the school, they should always feel that, oh, I'm going to learn new things today. So that is the principle that we have in the education system. So we as an educator, we are working towards that. We are trying our best to achieve His Majesty's goal, and our Majesty and the government of Bhutan and Ministry of Education is working, and we as educators, we are also working towards that. So in the overall, we are trying our best to give the best citizens or best educated humans for the world. So with this, I would like to thank Madam, and then hopefully on 27th we'll meet personally. Right now we are virtually, so we'll meet. Looking forward for the very exciting program. And thank you so much for the opportunity. Kadinche, thank you. Tashkili.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. I We hope more participation from Bhutan, because I guess you have a lot to share with the world, who is running after a different perspective, a different objective, instead of like giving more values to the environment, to the happiness, because I just forgot about that, the GNH, which is I'm very impressed, which is another factor that I'm very impressed about, because you're the only one country that that measures the development in terms of GNH, I guess, because we measure the development, we and the rest of the world are different, measuring the development in terms of GDP, gross domestic production, all in terms of monetary values. But ultimately, what values for a human is happiness. Because being a Buddhist, I really value that concept, because we should understand that at the end of the day, whatever we do, whatever we earn, whatever statuses we have accomplished, happiness is what matters. And this concept is being forgotten by most of the countries because of very short-term monetary benefits. So I guess more participation from countries like you will give a very positive influence to the world as well. In summits like this, we can work together to bring up that morale of good values. So I take this an opportunity to encourage more participation from your country to the summit as well. So once again, thank you very much for joining with us. That was a wonderful interview. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience. Thank you very much. And we are looking forward to have some more sessions, hopefully, before the summit. So if you can introduce more educators from your country, we warmly welcome them as well for more interviews. So with that, I would like to remind about the summit to all the viewers. It's the International Education Summit for Quality Education, which will be held in Lucknow, India from 28th to 30th October. So please grab this opportunity. It's going to be a wonderful experience with a lot of educators sharing different ideas, different teachings. So grab this opportunity and book your registration in advance. So thank you very much once again. And I would like to thank Mr. Janaka Kamalgunda, the president of our association, for creating this platform so that other countries, instead of travel barriers, we can get together and have discussions. We can share our knowledge. This is a wonderful platform to all the educators. Thank you very much for taking the initial step of creating this step, Mr. Janaka Kamalgunda. And once again, thank you very much, Mr. Jamtsho from Bhutan. That's the end of today's interview. Hope all of you have gained something from this interview. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.